Curtis, you give the invocation for us, please.
Father, just so grateful to have everybody here tonight, and I just pray for our meeting tonight that you would give us discernment to act on behalf of the district and our students. And, Father, just pray that you be with our administrators and our teachers and the staff, and particularly our children and their families, Father. There's a lot of families that are struggling financially, or kids are struggling with time and different situations. And I just pray for your guidance and direction for us, and your comfort and encouragement for everyone involved, Father. Thank you so much for blessing our community in so many ways. Christ in my prayer. Amen.
All right. Next, we have the public hearing on the 1920 Texas Academic Performance Report.
So this is an annual required report. So we have 3 reports that were required to distribute to the public, and I really wish that they would combine these 3 reports into one report, because a lot of it is the same data. But we have the state report, we have a federal report, and then we have the TAPR. And so each of them has some different requirements on reporting. This one is we're required to have a public hearing, and so this is the public hearing on the TAPR. Most of the information is based on state assessments, and as y'all know, we did not have those last year, but it's still required. So we will have a few minutes and see if anybody has any comments, and then tomorrow we'll send out the TAPR by email out to our parents, and then post it on the website. And so the accountability rating is not rated, declared state of a disaster. For the district, there's a special ed piece to it that we're under some monitoring for special ed needs assistance, and that's due to RDA and PDMAS, and we've already met with the state, and they has to do with instructional settings, and they're very pleased with and been complimentary with some things that we've done there. So anyways, I guess we'll wait for a couple minutes and see if anybody has any comments or questions.
I have to say, when I first read this, I saw a declared state of disaster.
That's not. That'll take you back.
That's not what you want to read, when you look at the performance report. So, just to clarify the media, we weren't in a state of disaster.
Yeah, that could be read a different way. So.
It's going to be this week's headline.
We've already sent out the state report cards back a few weeks ago. We sent those out by email. The federal report cards will go out in the actual students' report cards. There'll be a letter. The report card won't go out. We're required to send out a letter in the report cards. And then this one we're required to have a public hearing on. So.
All right, moving on. Do we have any recognitions? Okay. Look like we have any citizen participation, do we? All right, administrative reports. Any questions on the finance reports? I didn't have any. Anybody?
There was a big increase in one of the lines. I'll have to go back and find it. I was following you, and now I have to
Unfollowed it.
Unfollow me.
There was, so the beginning value to the ending value was about $1 million higher.
Oh, yes.
What was that from?
we got lots of tax collections, which our December collections come in, January. They deposit the first of the next month. That was like over $500,000. And then, the state payment, our state payment, it was pretty good size too.
Okay. I was just curious.
The biggest portion of it's gonna be tax collections. And you'll see the January collection should be pretty good, and then we're about done for the year after that, so.
Do they still surprise us with those, or do we have a heads up when that's coming?
Well, these are your normal, they come on the 25th. That one was a settle up from a WADA deal we did with Snyder, and it was like a year and a half later when they finally got all the final head counts in and all the reports in, and they settled up. And they settled up on December 24th and didn't tell us it was coming, and we were undersecured. I was not happy. And I called them before. I called TEA, I said, when are you gonna do it? Because we're fixing to leave for Christmas. Oh no, it'll be till spring. Oh man. Anyway, it's a story for another day.
Imagine that.
Well, it's been years ago. I'm still mad about it.
Principal reports.
I go, mine's quick, so. We just been doing a lot of learning, as long as we've had a whole lot of exciting things going on, other than our kids are growing and learning and doing well. We completed all of our middle of the year assessments, and of course, we're always concerned about the slide with being out of school and the remote learning, but honestly, the gaps weren't what we were afraid we would see, but we do still have some work to do. Math is usually something that can stick out because it's so skill oriented. So there's a couple of skills that we know that we missed at the end of last year that we've been working on, things like geometry and personal and finance that we usually do at the end of the year. And even though we covered them remotely, they're definitely kind of raising their heads up now that we're looking at some of their testing and stuff. So they've been doing some extra things with that. Miss Bryant's been working on careers. We're not going to do a career day this year, but we've been researching, and we're going to kind of have a little celebration where the kids dress up what they want to be when they grow up. And the teacher's been showing videos that she's provided of some different careers that they may not normally think of or be aware of, and so that's been pretty neat to see. They're really, really great videos. And then we got Valentine's coming up, so we'll be excited one of these days when we can have visitors again on our campus, so we can have some parents come in and celebrate with us. But in the meantime, we're gonna keep having fun. That's about it for our offer.
Sure.
We've been learning too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't get up on him.
So we're gonna be doing our last benchmark right before we take our first star. And so February 16th, we're gonna administer the 7th grade writing. And then March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're gonna run the rest of our star. We're gonna run it. We're gonna get them all in their groups, accommodations, everything. It's gonna be a run through for us for when we take the real test. That way we can get the glitches out now. So the good thing about it, I met with Canlin with Region 14. They're gonna put everything through Eduphoria. And so they're gonna build the test for us. As soon as they take the test, it scores. So we have automatic feedback. So that way we want to do it right before spring break. That way we can start really tackling what we need to tackle. So that's our biggest thing right now. We're really working on that, trying to get that set. Julie, Bryant, and myself we met almost all morning today working on that. I don't know if y'all saw this, but we're going to raffle this off as middle school. Our little cornhole boards we had made. So I had a guy make these. It just says Stamford ISD 6-time state championship champions, and we put the championship on the side. It's got bulldogs on the end. So we just thought we'd give a little excitement and see what we're going to do with that money is at the end when everything's done and said. Our kids have worked hard all year. They've had to fight through stuff that we never had to fight through. So we want to have something special for them at the end. So they donated those to us, so we're gonna try to do something good for them. We're looking at having our UIL Awards Banquet February 22nd, starting at 9 a.m. And how we're gonna do this, guys, is we're gonna do 6th grade, give out all their awards, get about a 10-15 minute break, get them out, unless you have a 7th grader, then do 7th grade, get them out, and then do 8th grade. So take about probably 30 minutes per deal. We have a lot of awards, so you just never know how long it's gonna take, but we're gonna schedule about 30 minutes. I put on here our first middle school track meet is in Anson March 1st, but I found out today that we are having one here the 25th. That they've already called the schools and done everything, and it's not gonna be like a regular track meet. It's gonna be to shoot the gun, run your deal, and you hand them a ribbon. Not a big fan of that, but right now, just trying to get workers and behind the ball, that's what we're gonna have to do, but they at least get to run that night, so. And last but not least, our top students for the third 6 weeks were J.C. Corzine, Higgin Logan, and Panabooth Mayo. I told Panabooth, he's kind of won that, but we had to break it down to the 10th of the point this time with about 3 other people. So he's, they're catching him, so he better start working. But they'll get pizza Monday, and I'm sure JC will not share it again. Thank y'all.
Just so y'all can keep up with the happenings, because spring gets busy. So I got upcoming events on there. Y'all need to take that for reference purposes. We're learning at the high school as well. I better say that. We shout out to our band. They went to Stephenville on Saturday, competed in the solo and ensemble contest. We had one, Orlando Marino, who received a Division I rating on a Class 1 solo. And I'm not a band guy, but so Mr. Copeland explained this to me, and basically a Class 1 solo means he played it from memory. So he not only did he get a Division I rating, he did it from memory. So it's pretty impressive. And then we also had 3 others, Jesus De Leon, and then the Castro brothers, who received a Division I rating on a Class 3 solo. So I just wanted to recognize them. Our students of the month for January were Shanley Mueller and Jessica Sarmiento. Our teacher of the month was Miss Edwards. Some of the things we're doing, February is Black History Month, and so we're doing several different things with that. It's also Celebrate Careers Month, and so Miss Mueller's had different things going on. We've had Workforce Solutions here, highlighting some different industry-based careers. We're doing some kind of soft skills, career skills and challenges with our kids. And so those are some things we're doing. I did want to just recognize Miss Mueller. Last week was School Counselor Week, and so she wears lots of different hats for us and does an amazing job. So one of those jobs, that last bullet point there, is testing. We've done a lot of testing since we got back. We've done pre-ACT, PSAT. We've done 2 rounds of TSI, ASVAB, and then English 1 and 2 benchmarks so far. We were pretty impressed with our, I didn't really know what to expect with our English 1 and 2 benchmarks based on, new group of kids, not having data from last year, but we were pleasantly surprised, and it's not just about taking the benchmark, it's about what you do next. And so we've had good conversations with our English teachers about using that data and really getting some interventions for some of those kids that maybe we need to, not necessarily just the ones that didn't get to approaches, but the ones that are on the bubble from going from one level to the next, either approaches to meets or meets to masters. So we'll continue to work on that. And then, like I said, upcoming events, we got lots of upcoming events. Our schedule is about to get really full. So, and this doesn't include the ag schedule because theirs is really, they're not sure about theirs right now. So what's actually going to happen and what's not going to happen, and what's virtual and what's not virtual. So I'm having to ask them about daily, what do we got going on this week? And so it's a little frustrating for them but you know, they're doing, they did say we would have we would have regional and state in person for this spring for our CDE, contest. So we're excited about that. Another thing to, highlight there is band. They go to Seymour, on Wednesday, February 24th for UIL concert and sight reading contest. And then of course, obviously the girls are in the basketball playoffs. And so that'll hopefully continue to update the schedule for them as we go. But their first game is this Thursday. So anybody have any questions? We also do have NHS. We didn't get to do NHS inductions last year because of COVID. And so we are having a pretty big induction ceremony on March 1st. So, all right.
We are learning. We are learning from administration ability. All right, on superintendent's report, just a few things. School, just want to remind everyone that we do have instruction on this Friday, that's a makeup day. And then on Monday, the 15th, we have a student holiday and a staff development day. Looked at the forecast on that day. It's supposed to be pretty cold and a chance of snow on that day. So anyways, so also just a reminder to everyone, we'll get this out, but that last day of school, we moved it from that Thursday, the May 20th to Friday, May 21st. And that's supposed to be an early out on that day too. So we'll make sure that we get that word out. Graduation's still on May 28th. We scheduled it like that just because we didn't know with flex days and what was going to happen. So that's still on May 28th. School calendar for next year. We've got kind of a rough draft going to the campuses. That'll go through, again, campus site-based committee meetings and the district site-based committee meetings. And then hopefully we'll have have something to present to the board in March. March board meeting. So we've got spring break kind of in the middle of that. So some options are the 15th, Monday, the 18th, Thursday, or the 22nd, the next Monday. My recommendation is the 15th, but you know, we can do whatever. Any thoughts on that? Any preferences on a board meeting date? Yeah, well, we talked about posting before we go to spring break, just post it early.
Well, potentially the 15th and maybe the 18th stock show, but I don't have to be here.
Okay.
I don't have to be here either. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So we're going for the 15th or not?
I guess we're going for the 15th and we'll just, you might not be here either. Eric.
Yeah, pretty much no.
Oh, yeah, because that's still that's third wave hogs at Houston. Yeah.
Anybody else that won't be here, as long as we can have.
City council is the first and third
Okay.
Mondays.
We ain't worried about them. We're worried about us.
The newspaper's worried about it because it creates
a scheduling issue.
Well, we can do it on the 18th. The problem with the more you move it down, it's then you have a board meeting like right after that. It's like, we just had a board meeting. So we can do it on the 18th if you want to. That's fine. Thoughts, questions, concerns? Is it going to make a difference on the 18th?
I don't think so.
I will probably be here on the 18th. Just, do you know what it takes to go to Austin? Of course, that's
It's all on top. I don't know. It's all on top of each other. I know.
Principals, do we have anything on the 18th? I didn't see anything.
I don't see anything.
It's the 17th, right?
Gosh, I got 'em. I'm so confused.
Baseball tournament.
Besides someone's birthday. Oh, no, that's March. That's March.
Baseball tournament.
Okay, so Thursday the 18th, is that good with everybody? All All right, roofing project, we were supposed to hear from travelers on Friday. We heard a little bit, nothing concrete, and so we're supposed to hear back from them for sure on Wednesday. So we'll see how for sure that is. As soon as I get some word on that, I'll let y'all know about what Travelers has to say on that. Okay, the last thing that I have to report to y'all, and it'll take a little bit, is on the teacher incentive allotment. We've talked a few times on the teacher incentive allotment, but it's been a while, and so I kind of wanted to update y'all on everything that we've done on that. So I've got a short video and then a short PowerPoint, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But I'll let Mr. Burfeen show the video, and then I'll kind of go through a PowerPoint presentation. You know the technology.
Played earlier.
Unplug it, plug it back in.
Reboot.
Yeah.
This tells me.
Restart.
Did it this morning. You should have downloaded it.
Okay, while he's working on that, I'll say a few things. So we've been working on this, as you know, since last year. This was in House Bill 3. So far, there's 4 cohorts, A, B, C, and D. Really, A, B, and really C are districts that, A and B for sure are districts that already had an incentive program in place, like Dallas ISD already had one in place before House Bill 3 was ever passed. C was to get it kind of go rolling last year. There wasn't a whole lot of districts in cohort C. And so we're in cohort D. And so that basically means that we had a stakeholders committee that's looked through some things this year. We'll collect data next year. We'll turn in that data. And then as you'll see, we'll potentially hand out checks in 2023. So the stakeholder committee was a committee that was developed of teachers and administrators, but mostly teachers, and it had representatives from each of the campuses. We had 3 stakeholder committee meetings, one on November 12th, one on November 16th, and one on December 2nd. And at the December 2nd meeting, the committee approved our plan. And so our plan, as you'll see here in a minute, it's got to be turned in by April the 15th to TEA. And so really, you know, the biggest issue that you'll see here in a minute on that plan was deciding what data pieces would be vetted by TEA and Texas Tech and would survive that vetting process on valid data. And then also that led to which teachers on this cohort, on this plan, would be eligible for designations. There's 2 different types of 2 different pathways for that to be eligible for a teacher incentive allotment. The first pathway, and I'll say this again here in a minute because it is becoming a national board certified teacher. And that's a process that they can go through, and it's a pretty rigorous process from what I understand. But that does qualify teachers for the recognized level. And so any teacher is eligible for that, regardless of what they teach. If they go through that, then they can be eligible for the recognized status. The other pathway is through an approved designated system. And that's what really we worked on as a committee, is what does that look like, and who would be eligible for that. And so that was where we spent most of our time, was looking at that and how we could get valid data. So TA is, you know, they're not just going to allow. Is it ready to roll?
I'm ready.
All right. I'll be quiet and let it.
To the 3-minute guide to the The teacher incentive allotment has the following goals for the teaching profession. First, to reward effective teaching. Second, to retain effective teachers in the classroom. Third, to recruit effective teachers into the profession. And finally, to ensure that our effective teachers are at the schools where they are needed the most. House Bill 3 established 3 levels of designation: recognized, exemplary, and master. Teachers can earn designations in 2 ways. The first is by obtaining a national board certification, which may qualify a teacher for recognized designation. The second is through a school system's approved local designation system. Approved designation systems may designate teachers as recognized, exemplary, and master. These designations are valid for 5 years. Designations can generate annual allotment funding for the employing school system. Each designation starts with a base amount. For recognized, it is $3,000. For exemplary, it is $6,000. And for master, it is $12,000. The allotment funding increases depending on a campus's rural status and school socioeconomic need, with higher allotment funding generated at rural and high-needs campuses. For a teacher to earn a designation or generate allotment funding, they need to be employed as a teacher for at least a creditable year of service, which is at least full-time for 1 semester or part-time for a year, and also have an active standard or lifetime Texas teacher certification. The school system receives the generated allotment funding and is required to spend the funds meeting statute. Statute states that at least 90% must be used for compensation of teachers employed at the campus where the designated teacher works, and up to 10% can be used for costs associated with supporting the local designation system or to support teachers in obtaining designations. If a teacher chooses to move to a new campus or district, the designation and the allotment will travel with the teacher to the new district. The allotment will be recalculated based on the new district's rural status and school socioeconomic need. Districts who want to be approved for a local teacher designation system will need to develop and implement a system based on teacher observation and student growth. The state's role will be to approve district systems based on their validity and reliability. Districts who are interested should follow this 5-step process. The first step could take up to 2 years and is called system development and includes district planning, working with their stakeholders, and aligning their system to performance standards. When districts have completed this step, they may submit their application to TEA for review. Upon approval of their application, districts may begin their data capture year. This year represents the year that they are implementing their system and capturing the teacher observation and student growth data. This year also represents a district's cohort letter. For example, the first data capture year was 2018-2019 and represents cohort A. After capturing their data, the next step is for the district to submit their data to Texas Tech University for data validation. TEA will then review the outcomes of the data validation and the application to determine final approval. If approved, district designations will be approved and they can begin to receive allotment funding. Thank you for listening. For additional questions or resources, please visit our website at www.tiatexas.org or send us an email at tia@tea.texas.gov.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of walk y'all through this PowerPoint presentation. Some of this is, again, you're gonna hear it for the second and third time, but it is kind of confusing, and we have had a consultant, Dr. Tammy Cruz. We hired her to help us through this process, and it was paid for by a grant. And I can tell you, I think the administrators that are on that committee will tell you that she's been pretty valuable. It's been pretty complicated walking through this process. And at the end of the day, what we want a program that gets approved by TEA, because it doesn't help anybody if our application gets kicked out. Go ahead and move to the next. Yeah. So here are the 3 levels again. You recognize is 3,000 to 9,000, exemplary is 6,000 to 18,000, and 12,000 to 32,000. So some pretty significant amounts of money. And this money is given to the school by the state. So it's I guess kind of flow through, I guess is what you would call it. And so it's not taken out of our general fund monies. This is given to us by TEA. Again, national board certification is available to any teacher that goes through that process that has taught for a year and is Texas certified. Those other 2 levels have to be reached by a designation plan. So those are the 2 pathways: national board certification or an approved designation system. So here's kind of the rubric of how it works. And I can tell you a little more specific about Stamford. And this is again by campus. It's not by district, okay? Because each campus has a different level of socioeconomic status, okay? Like Oliver, they have a lower, they have a higher amount of high or low socioeconomic students. So they have a higher percentage. So that they would be farther along on the scale. A lot of that has to do with turning in the forms, to be quite honest. The elementary students are a little bit better at turning in the forms than high school students. And so that's how that's based. But it's also based on tiers, and I think that has to do with
household income, education level of the household. There's like several criteria that they use.
And when we've looked at it, I don't know that we necessarily agree with it, is what I would say to you. Anyways, it's the data that's been given to us. And then of course we're a rural school district, so that qualifies us for more funding. For Stamford, for our campuses, and this is as of today, I pulled this data today, and again, it could change. But for Oliver Elementary, Recognize could bring about $7,400, Exemplary about $15,000, and then Master designation could bring almost $27,000. For the middle school, it's $7,200, $14,400, and $26,000. And then for the high school, it's $6,700, $13,462, and then Master is $24,437. So again, we don't come up with those numbers. That's a number that's generated by the state. And you might say, well, does anybody qualify for the 32,000? I don't think that there will be hardly anybody, if anyone, that will qualify for the full 32,000. By the way, that they're calculating this. I could be wrong, but I think it would be pretty rare. All right, next slide. So this is kind of how it works. Again, we start to develop a local designation system and designate high teachers. So that's done through two ways, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then TA has to approve the local designation system in partnership with Texas Tech. So districts are not required to create a local designation system. Some districts may not choose to even participate in this, and they don't have to. No, you don't have to participate in this. In some of the districts, we're in cohort D, which means we're going through this process right now. Some districts are choosing to be in cohort E or later. So why are we pursuing it? And this has been a lot of work, as they can tell you. Why are we pursuing it? Because I don't want our teachers to miss out on it. I don't want our teachers to miss out on the possibility of that. And all school systems can employ designated teachers and receive allotment funds. So let's say that District X down the road doesn't participate, doesn't have an approved local designation system. Well, the only way they can give that money is if a teacher moves in that already has a designation. Now the issue with that is that after 5 years of that designation goes away unless they're in a district that has a local designation system. Okay, and then obviously, it depending on socioeconomic status and rural or non-rural, those amounts vary by every district. And so we're in a pretty good position. Our numbers are pretty high. So we're able to, our designations do generate a pretty good amount of money. Districts will receive additional funding. So again, that's not, that money is given to the district from TEA. So it doesn't come out of our, our budgeted operating money, I guess. Districts will receive greater funding for designation teachers who teach at rural, and we already talked about the high-needs campuses, and at least 90% of teacher incentive allotment funds must be used on teacher compensation on the campus where the designated teacher works. So the board doesn't approve the teacher incentive allotment plan that we're gonna submit to TA, but what you will have to approve is the compensation plan. And what we're looking at right now is, so let's talk about that 90%. That 90% could be 50% to the teacher that gets a designation and 40% to the other teachers on that campus. I mean, that 90% could be divvied up in several different ways. What we're looking at right now is 80% to the teacher, and then 10% to the other teachers at that campus. And then the other 10% is for administrative costs. And that's not, I want to clarify, that 10% for administrative costs is not for my salary or the principal's salary or Stacy's salary. Hey, to operate this, it's going to take a consultant like Tammy Cruz that's going to vet some of that data and help us with the designations each year. So that 10% is going to go towards just managing the whole allotment. It's not going to go towards our salaries. I just want to make that clear. So that's what we're looking at right now, is probably an 80% to the teacher, 10%, because not all teachers, you'll see here in a minute, not all teachers will qualify for this. 10% to the other campus, the other teachers at campus, and then 10% for administering the allotment. Okay. All right, so again, here's the process. District applies and signs data sharing agreement. So we're there. TA reviews and approves local designation system. That's the next step for us, and we're really close on the application process. I did a Zoom I believe it was last week, with Dr. Cruz. We're really close on that, on being able to submit that to TEA. And then next year the district will submit data. We'll collect data next year and we'll submit it to TEA if all this stuff moves like we think it's going to. Verification by TEA and Texas Tech, and then TEA makes final approval of district designations. So there's really 3 steps there that this whole plan has to be vetted and have been approved. Step 2, TEA's got to approve the designation system that we submit to them. And then step 3, we're going to submit data, and they're going to make sure that it's valid, that not just the student growth data, but the T-test data from the principals, that it's calibrated, and then the final they have to approve of the district designation. So it's not an easy process, and this whole designation system is going to be vetted pretty heavily by TEA and Texas Tech. Okay. All right. So there can be up to 3 factors in determining designations. The first is teacher observation. So that's T-test is what we use. District application must show evidence of validity and reliability. So in our application process, we have to show that the principals are calibrated. In other words, like, that one principal is not giving all high grades, high marks, and the other principal is giving really low grades and marks. And so Tammy Cruz, Dr. Cruz, has got some validation and some calibration activities that we'll do this summer to make sure that the principals are all on the same page and that we're consistent. On student performance measures determined by district, but the district application must show evidence that what we're using on performance measures has valid and reliable data. So in other words, we really shied away from, and you'll see this here in a minute, of us developing a local performance measure. What we've tried to use is measures that have already been vetted by TEA, already been vetted by national sources, so that when we turn it into TEA, it'll get approved. In other words, we've really shied away from like portfolios and SLOs, learning objectives, because those are a little less subjective, a little more subjective, a little less easily to show that they're valid and reliable. And so you'll see here in a minute, the teachers that are selected for the designation are those that are basically had STAR test, or they're using some kind of national assessment that's been vetted already. And then other additional factors, we didn't choose any. Okay, we're just going to focus on those 2: student performance and teacher observation. Okay. All right. Again, districts must use at least 9% on compensation on the campuses. If the teacher moves to a new district, that money will follow them to that new district. But again, regardless of whether the district has an approved designation system in place or not, it would be recalculated on that new school, that campus, not just that school, but that campus. And the districts will need to consider and shape a local plan on how to use those funds. And that's what I'm talking about that the board will have to approve a payment plan. And the districts will complete an attestation. That's TA loves their attestations from verifying how they use these funds to ensure compliance with spending requirements. Okay. So again, we're in cohort D. We have filled out the application. The system application was posted in November. We're gonna fill it out for sure by April 15th, but probably before that. And then we'll know, whether our system was approved by August the 15th. And then data review, will begin next year. Final approval notification late February of 23, final designation allotment notification April of 23. So it won't be till September of 23 before we'll actually get the payout from 22-23. So that's why we got to keep this ball rolling, okay? Because if we don't keep it rolling, as you can see, it's just going to be kicked on down the road. So, all right. So these are the teachers that are eligible for designations at this point. Again, we can go back in at some point and we talk to Dr. Cruz about that. If we find some ways that we'll have reliable and data that can be vetted and show that it's consistent, we can add some. But again, so these are the teachers that already give a test, whether it be a MAT test, which is a national test that's used, or they give a STAR test. So pre-K through 12, reading and math, grades 1 through 4 writing, grades K through 8 science, 8th grade US history, algebra 1, English 2, and EOC teachers. And then the measures again is 50% t-test, 50% student growth. There's kind of a matrix, kind of a rubric, I guess, to determine how this is going to work out. The first thing is the TA has said that no more than 30% in your plan. You have to develop a plan that doesn't generate more than 30% of your teachers to get a designation. And so you kind of have to show that. And so what we're showing is 30% recognized, or the top 30% could be recognized, top 15 exemplary, and the top 5 master. So on calculating that, minimum score to be designated should be a 3.75 or higher. And so that is calculated with using t-tests, and then the student growth or the classroom growth score. Go ahead and move it to the next one. This will make a little more sense. So how do you convert t-tests into a number? This is how we're going to do it. Is needs improvement is 1, developing 2, proficient 3, accomplished 4, and distinguished 5. So if you'll go back to the previous one, so you'll see that the t-test score, basically you got to get at least a 3.58 to get in that consideration. So if you go back forward, so that shows that it's between proficient and accomplished is where that would land you. Okay, there's 16 indicators, so all the scores will be averaged together equally for a cumulative numerical rating between 1 and 5. Okay. All right, then here's the growth, and this is the one that we really struggled on probably the most, because again, we wanted to show that the growth measure that we were using would pass through TEA and Texas Tech. That we had measures that we felt like that had already been validated. So pre-K teachers use Circle, which they already used that. That's a TEA approved program. K through 3 reading and math, they're going to use MAP and CLI for kindergarten. MAP is again a national program that is used for diagnostic purposes, and we feel like that's gonna fly. Grades 1 through 4 writing and grades K through 8 science. Grades 4 through 8 reading and math, we're going to use the STAR, which it'd be hard for TA to argue with the STAR progress measure because it's their test. And then 8th grade US history, again, we'll use a pre and post test on STAR released test. And then high school EOC will use pre and post tests based off released EOCs. Questions about all that? I know I'm throwing a lot at you. We would like to include every teacher, but it's difficult to find a test that would fly with TEA on valid data with some of our teachers. So we tried to include everything that we could think of, that every teacher that we could think of that uses a test that's either STAR or a national test.
So are y'all currently giving that?
We started this year. We started math this year.
More
Hmm?
tests. More tests.
I get, didn't have a measure, but I think the teachers that aren't included in that are gonna feel pretty undervalued.
We talked about that a lot. It was a pretty big sticking point. And I agree with that. And what I would say is I'd point back to, you know, they can get national board certified to get the recognized level. If a teacher on their campus gets it, they'll get 10%. And that's why we're doing that, is because I do think there's some teachers that would never get, you know, considered for this. And so that was a big discussion. That was the biggest discussion. It's a tough. And you know, the thing with it is we wanted to make sure that we had a plan that we feel like we'll pass through TEA and Texas Tech.
On the slide before this one, can you go back?
One more.
You know, go back one more. Where it said, I think it said 30% could be, 30% can be recognized.
Yes.
So if you have a.
That was if that's if all of them are 30%. And then if that's if all of them were recognized and you didn't have any that were exemplary and master, like 30% is the most that you can have.
So if you have multiple teachers that go get national board certified.
It doesn't, that doesn't,
apply.
from my understanding, that doesn't, because all teachers can get national board certified. Does it count towards that? It's a good question. Does it count towards that 30%?
What is the percentage of teachers that don't fit into this eligibility?
I don't know. And it really, it would be different by campus. You know, the high school has the most that would not qualify.
Right.
Because we all those electives and fine arts and CTE, and we talked about CTE and some ways to possibly, you know, and at some point maybe we can go back and submit another plan to try to get those qualified. But what we didn't want is to put something in there that kicked the whole thing out, and then none of them would qualify. This is a tough conversation. At one point I was like, well, I'll just tell you, at one point I was like, is this something we really want to do, or we want to drop this? And one of our fine arts teachers actually spoke up and said, hey, I'm not going to get this, but we need to pursue this for the rest of our teachers. So, but again, that fine arts teacher could get national board certified and get the recognized level, which is $7,000. You know, it's nothing to sneeze at. But
If your special education program teachers, they will qualify across the board.
they would not.
They're not,
They would not.
but they teach math, writing, history, science.
Yeah, unless they were the teacher of record for that student.
Oh, okay.
But like your inclusion teachers and your like specialized teachers that work with like your pull-out teachers, I would say, you know, those wouldn't qualify. But if they were teacher of record, they would.
Okay. They was teacher of record that taught all those subject areas.
See, and we talked about that just last week at staff meeting on the 80-10. We were talking about maybe just like on that 10%, just like including like your inclusion or your specialized teachers, but we really feel like it needs to include all the teachers on that campus, because there's going to be some that wouldn't qualify for it. So it really came down to, is this something that we just want to drop and leave money on the table, or pursue it and know that these are the teachers we feel pretty confident this plan is gonna go through. Where we feel, I feel I would be shocked if this doesn't get approved by TEA. But if we start putting in teachers where we don't have a student measure that can be validated by Texas Tech and TEA, then I don't think it will go through. And that's what it really come down to, is push it through for those that can get it, or just leave it alone and not get it for anybody. It was a tough conversation. Yeah, and it does. And I think y'all know the market, is very, very competitive for teachers right now. And anything we can do to draw teachers here and keep them here, I think we need to pursue, and this is one of those, because I think a lot of districts are kind of pushing it down the road and may not even do it. And here's the other thing, is that I don't know where this is gonna be with the legislative session. Okay, this may get cut, and this may be all for naught. We may do all this work, and then in May, they cut all this. But here's the thing, is if they don't do it, if they don't cut it, and we didn't pursue it, I'm gonna feel like we didn't do a service to our teachers by pursuing it. So. All right, so this kind of shows you on student growth. Let's see, go back one, working one more. The other way, one more, backwards, one more. So right here, you can see that on the classroom growth score, it's a 4.26 to qualify on the growth score. So if you go back to that slide that shows the table right there. So 4.26 is basically above 70%. So above 70% of your students showed growth, showed a year's growth. So that's where that number kind of comes into play. All right, I know that was a long spill, but I think, we talked about teacher incentive allotment before, about a year ago, and then COVID hit, and I don't want y'all to think that we just kind of let it go. We're still pursuing it. Any other questions about it?
I didn't know there was that much to it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for putting in the time.
Well, and Dr. Cruz has been, oh my gosh. I keep telling those districts around us that are doing cohort D, you need to, this was a complicated process, and I didn't realize how complicated it was until we started digging into it. It was like, I'm glad we have someone that has done this multiple times and can lead us through it. And I feel like we know what we're doing now. As before, it would be hard to come up with this kind of system without us having any experience doing it. So, all right. And that's my superintendent's report.
Okay, consent agenda.
Strike B and C.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion by Curtis, got a second by Justin. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Jennifer Goodell?
Yes.
Kelly Miller?
Yes.
Curtis Birdsong?
Yes.
Lynn Baker?
Yes.
Eric Strand?
Yes.
Zach Logan?
Yes.
Justin Corzine?
Yes.
And motion passes unanimously. Oh, there it is. All right, next we have the bank depository 2021 through 23 biennium.
We qualify for another 2-year extension with BBVA. I talked to our representative in Abilene, and we can extend it with changes. They want to make some changes. They want to increase fees, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to open it and go back out for bid with it. And so what this is authorizing us to seek proposals on that, and we may end up back with them. Last time we didn't get but one bid from them, so we may not have a choice, but I've got the proposals almost ready to go, so we might as well see if we can get a little bit better deal. And they've been good to us. I'm not complaining at all. They just, and I understand, it costs them money to have our depository, our deposits. I mean, have to handle a lot of checks. It's expensive for them, and really banks don't really want public funds so much, but I understand, and they've been very good to us. We're just, trying to do due diligence and make sure that we get the best value that we can with the contract.
Make a motion to authorize superintendent to issue requests for proposals for depository services.
Second.
Got a motion by Zach, second by Kelly. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Jennifer Goodell?
Yes.
Kelly Miller?
Yes.
Curtis Birdsong?
Yes.
Lynn Baker?
Yes.
Eric Strand?
Yes.
Zach Logan?
Yes.
Justin Corzine?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously. right, next we have the missed school day waiver.
Okay, again, just to review again, this is for January 11th, our bad weather day on January the 11th. It has gone through district site base, and I included the vote on that. It was unanimous to pursue the waiver. We can only go pursue this waiver because we had 2 other days that we missed that we're going to make up by making up days. That's October 27th and January the 6th. So we're making up those days by flex days, bad weather days. And then January 11th, we're going to apply for a missed school day waiver.
I move that we approve the waiver request.
Second.
Motion by Curtis, second by Eric. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Jennifer Cadell,
Yes.
Ellie Miller,
Yes.
Curtis Birdsong,
Yes.
Glenn Baker,
Yes.
Eric Strand,
Yes.
Zach Logan,
Yes.
Justin Corzine.
Yes.
And that motion carries unanimously. All right, now, I believe we are going to convene into executive session.
That is correct.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Zach, second by Eric. Call for a vote. Jennifer Cadell? Yes. I was like, wait, I was looking at you.
My name is Jennifer Cadell.
Oh, no, I was thinking, why can I ask you? Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Curtis Birdsong.
Yes.
Glenn Baker.
Yes.
Eric Strand.
Yes.
Zach Logan.
Yes.
Justin Corzine.
Yes.
We are adjourned.